Sometimes I play a game and find something novel, but it's too small to make a video out of. So I add it to a list, and when that list gets big enough, I'll do one of these videos. So here's 4 small game design nuggets I noticed from games I played recently, with one small bonus at the end. First up, we have the morality compass in Broken Roads. Broken Roads is an upcoming CRPG set in the post-apocalyptic Australian outback. The compass they introduce is an evolution on a tried and true morality system. It does away with your typical good versus evil decision-making structure that you commonly see in morality systems, and instead, it populates the compass with 4 possible philosophical leanings: utilitarian, humanist, Machiavellian, and nihilist. When you make a character, you go through a 6-question quiz, and based on your decisions, your compass gets calibrated. Each decision that you make affects your worldview that you can see with the small yellow angle within the compass. It's a very interesting take on a morality system, and I like it for a few reasons. Firstly, it's a cool representation of a complex subject matter that tries to introduce a lot more nuance into story-based decision-making. Second, I imagine it'll be very interesting to watch your worldview shift over time as you play the game, especially if the game forces you to make some heavy decisions. From the brief demo that I played of this game, I had a couple of thoughts to keep an eye on. Firstly, they seem to have gameplay buffs associated with the morality compass. This is always a tricky catch-22 in game design. You want your decisions to have more impact over the game, but by mixing perks and buffs into a narrative tool, you muddy the waters and could find that players start to make the decisions that give them the most practical benefits instead of engaging more thematically with the system. And second, they seem to lock you out of some decisions based on your current worldview, which feels a bit prohibitive. It would have been more interesting to see what the game feels like if you could make decisions down any of the 4 core philosophies, especially since that seems more akin to how our whims change based on the circumstances we're presented. Broken Roads is still in development, and we've yet to see how compelling the system plays out over time, but at least the idea of it and the way it's represented is worth calling out. Next up, we have the modern control scheme in Street Fighter 6. Now, I've always had a weird relationship with fighting games. I've played them throughout my life, and on paper at least, I should really be about them, but in truth, I'm quite terrible at them. There seems to be some conceptual hurdle that I never seem to get over. Street Fighter 6's modern control scheme did catch my interest and renew my desire to try and get good at these games. Now, I did try other fighting games in the past that had a similar simplified control scheme, but the way it is done in Street Fighter 6 feels different. At its core, modern controls simplify the mechanical execution required to play these games. They distill the available kit each player has down to a simplified core set of moves and let you focus on learning the fundamentals. You gain access to a subset of core special moves at the push of a button or two, and when you execute them, they deal a little less damage than they normally would have, but are so much easier to execute. One clever thing they've done is that they still let you input the actual commands to do these special moves in this control scheme, and if you do, you deal extra damage. The nice thing about this is that it lets you gradually transition out of this modern control scheme over time as you get better at the game. Unlike other modern control schemes, Street Fighter 6 keeps a small amount of execution that teaches you the importance of timing your button presses. They have 3 auto combos per character, for example, but those combos still require you to time your inputs and land them effectively. Now, will this finally be the fighting game I learn and actually get good at? That remains to be seen. But next up, we have looting in Atomic Hearts. At this point in your gaming career, it's safe to say you've looted a fair bit of goods. You know how that usually goes. You click a button, pick up an item, or open a UI and move things between some menus. In Atomic Hearts, however, looting feels very different and a lot more satisfying. Say you walk into a room with a bunch of cabinets to loot. Instead of interacting with each one individually, you instead press and hold a single button and very satisfyingly vacuum loot from these containers. This action is accompanied by visuals and sound effects that feel very satisfying. In essence, they've juiced up looting in a first-person game, and it fits really well thematically with the world and the characters they've created. Lastly, we have the introduction of the meta progression layer in Age of Wonders 4. Age of Wonders 4 is a strategy game, which is a mix of fantasy civ with a dash of Heroes of Might and Magic and some turn-based tactics thrown in there. But what's most interesting about the 4th installment in this series is the introduction of the meta progression layer. After each game, you gather experience, and you can progress down a tech tree that gives you access to some cosmetics, but also some seriously unique, different, and powerful gameplay effects. These effects can drastically change how consecutive runs feel. Now, this particular implementation can be cheesed very easily, but it is still a very interesting addition to an already addictive genre. We already know about the one more turn spell that these games usually cast on you, and with a meta progression layer that is well tuned and has some compelling rewards on it, your urge to dive into a new game after one just ended will be significantly stronger. One bonus call out before we wrap this up is Steam Engine Simulator. It is an impressive little piece of tech that aims to simulate how a Steam engine works, but the way the achievements are designed turns it into a pseudo-idle game and has a few small secrets to uncover. So that does it for this video, gamers. We're dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is our first big milestone. So if you feel compelled, leave us a like and subscribe. But as always, I appreciate you all and we'll see you again next time.